Most people are lonely. The problem is we live in a world where we've lost the art of initiation. We've lost the importance of it. We've forgotten how crucial relationships are to our well-being. It feels like an inconvenience, but it actually is the main sustenance of life. And every study on earth honestly points back to the fact that humans need most of all to be seen and loved. Yes. And that is our highest need. And so if we never pursue people, we'll never experience that connection that we're actually built for and need more than any other thing on earth.
Yeah. So we are more connected than ever before, but we're also more isolated than we've ever been. Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Paula Ferris Show. I'm your host, Paula, and this month I'm kicking off an entire series about friendships. I've heard from so many of you who said, I feel like I have a lot of acquaintances, but I really don't have any true, meaningful, and deep friendships. We are starving for friendship, you guys, and we are in the midst of a loneliness epidemic. So I couldn't think of anyone better to join the conversation than bestselling author Jennie Allen. The reality is so many of us feel like we have zero deep friends. And a lot of us, women and men, will say, I'm fine, instead of calling somebody in the midst of that cry or that crisis. I know I struggle with that a lot. So how do we build the kind of friendships that last through the conflict, through the growth, and all the mess in between? Jennie's going to share her personal story about how she did it, how she created a circle of friends that shows up even in the tough times and even when it's inconvenient. And she's going to show you and I how to do the same thing, plus the 3 things that we need to be looking for when it comes to finding that deep friendship. And she's going to explain the difference between an acquaintance and a true, deep, meaningful friend. I know this conversation was so helpful for me, and I know that it's going to help you, especially in realizing how critical friendship and connection are to our overall health, our mental health, our physical health, and our spiritual health. And a reminder, we always keep these conversations going in my personal newsletter at paulaferrisofficial.com. You'll get a sneak peek about what's coming up in the podcast. You'll get to hear from one another what you guys are saying about these topics and these conversations, plus what it's like to be a working parent in America from yours truly. And you guys know, I don't beat around the bush. I keep it real in my personal newsletter. I can't wait to share with you my takeaways from this conversation with Jennie Allen, and also when it's time to walk away from the friendship. Here's Jennie. Jennie Allen, someone that I call friend. Appropriately, we're doing an episode about the importance of friendship. It is so good to see you. And I think this is the first time I've actually spoken to you besides texting in a year. So what does that mean?
So sad. I know. But you've had a lot going on. And so have I. But gosh, yes.
You've had so much going on. So Jennie, I got this idea to do an entire series on friendship because I can't tell you how many of my friends and even acquaintances and even listeners have said, I feel like I have a lot of acquaintances, but I don't really have any true, solid friendships. And you write in your book, Find Your People, that we are in a loneliness epidemic. We've never been more connected, but we've also never been lonelier. So what would you tell the person right out of the gate, before we get into the importance of friendships and the different types of friendships? What would you tell the person that feels like that feels, I have acquaintances and I feel like I have some friends, but I don't really have deep, meaningful friendships? What would you tell them?
Well, the first thing I would say is you are not alone that you feel alone. In fact, before COVID, the research said 3 in 5 people admitted to feeling lonely, which is a really vulnerable thing to say. So imagine now post-COVID, we've got to be at 4 in 5. So it means that most people that you are going to, hopefully after this podcast and after this season, invite to dinner or ask, hey, would you ever want to go on a walk or hang out? Most people are going to be glad you asked because most people are lonely. The problem is we live in a world where we've lost the art of initiation. We've lost the importance of it. We've forgotten how crucial relationships are to our well-being. It feels like an inconvenience, but it actually is the main sustenance of life. And every study on earth honestly points back to the fact that humans need most of all to be seen and loved.
Yes.
And that is our highest need. And so if we never pursue people, we'll never experience that connection that we're actually built for and need more than any other thing on earth.
Yeah. You mentioned initiation. I want to get to that in a second because I do think we often wait for somebody else. Well, nobody's asked me to do anything. We don't put ourselves out there. But scientifically, physically, why are friendships so important? I know that you write we weren't meant to do life alone. It's critical for so many components of our life. But if you were to just talk about the importance of friendship in general, how important is it to have true friends in our lives?
It's interesting. My counselor says this. He says, everyone comes into the world looking for someone looking for them, and we
Mhm.
never stop. And I just think that's so beautiful. You think of a baby and you think, oh, they just come out looking for food, looking for comfort, but they're really looking for eyeballs. They're looking for someone looking for them. And when you
Mhm.
think of your childhood, some of you listening, you never had anyone looking for you. You had broken parents, you had a broken family, and you didn't feel like people were looking for you. And I would just say that I'm so sorry. Like, this is such a fundamental, crucial thing to being human, to feeling healthy and whole. And and so much of this begins in a place where we don't have control. We can't control that our parents are walking through their own difficult seasons, their own struggles. We can't help that as kids, and yet that shapes more than anything about us our understanding of how to relate to others. Is what
Wow.
was your immediate family? And some of you can look at like, man, I think I kind of had a good family. I had a pretty healthy family, but man, when I was 13 years old, my dad walked out, and we have a good relationship still, but it changed everything. And I would just say these circumstances cause us not to trust. They cause us not to want to open up to other people. They cause us to want to be guarded because we've been hurt. And then for others, maybe you had a great family system, but you get to high school, middle school, and you face so much rejection. And I mean, I have 4 kids, and every single one of my kids walked through what I would consider nightmare circumstances in middle school. I mean, just bullying, cyberbullying. I mean, just so much difficulty. It was so hard. And so some of you're out there and you're going, you know what? I had a pretty good family, but man, I still don't trust people. And
Right.
it's because people hurt you. And so fundamentally, it's good to know that everyone is going to hurt you. Yeah, it's really good news. They're all going to do it. Every
Right.
human, every person on earth, when you're in relationship with them, they will hurt you. And to the flip side, you will hurt them. And
Mhm.
it is why I believe in grace. It is what I have learned from God,
Yeah.
and I believe it is the only way it allows me to forgive and to move into relationship with other people. But guys, this is messy and hard. Like, this is not something that anyone escapes. You're either gonna feel lonely or you're gonna feel hurt. Now here, I'm not selling this thing. Let me start to sell it. Let me turn the corner, because it also is the very best parts of life.
Yes.
Name your 5 best moments on earth,
Mhm.
and every one of them is going to involve people. So,
Mhm.
this is not something we want to escape. It's something we want to face. It's something we want to learn to do better. It's something we want to invest in because
Yes.
it is worth it. The meaning of life comes from the relationships we have. It comes from the relationship we would have with God. It comes from the relationship we have with each other. This is the way we do life. I start with all the difficulty first because I just know so many people are hurting. I don't want to assume that this is easy for you, because it's not easy for anyone. And I always like knowing if it's going to be hard for me, I want to know it's hard for everybody else too. And then maybe we can start to figure it out together
Yeah.
in a really gracious, humble way.
Yeah, and there is a difference between hard and messy and conflict and toxic, and we can get into that too because
Yes, absolutely.
you don't need to stay in every friendship just
No.
because we know it's gonna be hard. You mentioned how imperative it is for us to have friendship, but you look at the science, it can improve our mental health, it can reduce
Yeah.
our stress, it can increase our lifespan, like, it's
Yeah.
critical
Yeah.
to our emotional, mental, spiritual, and physical well-being to have true friends, correct?
I mean, the research is wild. So you can have 2 humans that basically did everything the same. Of course, we don't know their DNA, but they don't drink, they don't smoke, everything the same. And one person is living with people and is connected with people, and one person is isolated. And about 100% of the time, they say, in fact, the science says that the most difficult thing to your health, more than alcohol, more than drugs, more than anything else, is loneliness. I mean, when I read that, I thought, are we sure
What?
about is this real? But I mean, how do we punish
Mhm.
criminals? We put them in solitary confinement.
We
It is
isolate
its
them.
own kind of hell. And part of the reason for that is because
Chills. I just got chills by thinking about that. Oh my word.
our minds are built relationally. Again, I do believe in God, and I believe that we were built by a triune God, a Father, Son, Holy Spirit, who lives in community. He built us in his image, and so each of us was built communal. We think of ourselves as people that need to do this. We need to
Yeah.
prioritize this.
Yep.
But we're actually communal humans. Like in our DNA, the way we are built communal. And so it's not something you need, it's something you are. And
Mhm.
and so even you introverts that are listening that are like, "I'm not that," I
Peace
would
out.
just challenge that.
Yeah.
I would challenge that. Okay, so let's play this out, Paula. You are more of an introvert.
Me?
You just raised your hand.
No,
I
no,
don't
no,
think so.
I was just saying introverts are gonna be like, "Peace out." No, I'm
Yeah,
an introvert
you are. I was gonna say you have to be an
extrovert.
extrovert.
I'm
Yes.
extremely extroverted, but I do have moments where I'm like, "I don't wanna be around anybody."
Yeah.
That said, my middle son is 100% to the T introvert, and I'm trying to encourage him. You need to have friends. You don't have to have 1,000 friends.
That's right.
2 friends. You only need 2 friends, but you have to invest in those friends. It's important for your well-being. But he would just rather hole up in his room and game or go to the gym by himself. I'm like, "You need people in your life, buddy. You do." But it's hard for him. It's not how he's wired.
Well, and I interviewed a lot of introverts for this book because I am more extroverted. I'm in between. I don't love people all the time, and I certainly don't love huge events. But I do know myself to pick to go out rather than stay home
Yes.
a lot.
Yes.
And I would say to the introverts, what I learned is when they were pressed, they're like, actually, I love people. I just love one-on-one.
Mhm.
I love
Yes.
connected time.
Yes.
And so that is great. Like, actually, that is the best. In the research, this is so fun. I looked at all of human history, and we are the most lonely generation. Nobody will argue it.
Mm.
Every other generation depended on each other for life.
Yes.
And so what happened with the Industrial Revolution is that became less, and people left their communities and they moved to big places. They would commute now to work, and they would be in factories. So that did change things for the first time, where we weren't ag dependent, where we literally had to work together to eat and to take care of each other and live in a what we would think of as a village. Today, that size, about around 150. And then so the Industrial Revolution was the first big change. And then, of course, the tech revolution is the second huge change. And the tech revolution has made it where everything comes to your doorstep now. You don't even have, you're totally independent from humans. It's absolutely horrible. When I did my, first 6 months of research for this book before I started writing, I actually was so depressed and hopeless. I thought, I don't even know if there's a book here, because it would just be so sad that we literally have been set up in such a horrible way to do life together. It's been taken from us. It's like
Mhm.
everything that
Right.
intertwined us with each other, it's just gone.
And I do wanna get to the different types of friendships in just a hot second, but we feel like we're putting somebody out.
Yeah.
When we ask them to do something, "Oh, I don't wanna put them out. I don't wanna ask for help." I know as
Yeah.
moms, especially as women, we're like, "No, I wanna do it on my own." In some ways, it's almost a badge of honor, and I've talked about this quite a bit on the podcast. My dad is from Lebanon, so I'm half Lebanese. In 2019, after he passed away, we went to Lebanon to his village, where his mother and father were born. We say Jiddu in situ, which is Arabic for grandfather and grandmother. And
That's so
the
cool.
family truly does life together. They live in an apartment. They don't have huge homes, Jenny, but they live on top of one another. So, like, one family member will be on the first floor, and then the next family member's on the next floor, and then the next family member's on the third floor. And then you can see the rebar just sticking
Yeah.
out from the roof, waiting for the next family member to build. They do life
I
together.
love it.
They
That's it. Yes.
expect to be asked, and if you don't
Yes.
ask them, they will be upset.
Yes.
They didn't let us there were 14 of us that came from America. They didn't let us do
Right.
anything. They didn't let us sleep at a hotel. They would be highly
Right.
offended if we did not do life with them. And
Isn't
that's
that
when they say it
great?
takes a village, it does, but they are inner dependent. We've lost our
Yes. Oh,
interdependency.
heartbreak. So every other culture, like even if you look today on
Uh-huh.
the earth, I talked about the other generations, but if you look today on the earth, 80% of the world does life this way.
Yes.
Like this is the West. Like we have
I know.
isolated ourselves. It's so funny. One of my friends is Rwandan and he moved to the US and he goes, "Man, I feel sorry for y'all."
Mhm.
And we're thinking, "Oh, poor Africa." Like they don't have as high a quality of life, they don't have as much revenue, they don't have this, they don't have that. They don't have these conveniences. He feels sorry for us
Yes.
because he came and he moved into a house in a suburb and he knew not his neighbors and no one took care of him. Nobody brought him food. He said, "We don't live a minute without each other. Like
Yes.
we raise our kids together.
Yep.
We wash our clothes together. We cook our food together." And I mean, everybody's depressed right now. We got to turn to the hope because I actually did get so hopeful in this process but it is a whole other way of thinking. It's like a revolution because you really do have to shift the way you do life. You have to need people. You have to call the friend in the middle of the cry, not after you pulled yourself together. What I've done is just build 5 friends in 5 miles. And that matters. Proximity matters because we can get together in a moment's notice. We can run over to each other's houses. We can meet up without a plan. We don't have to fight traffic. We don't have to figure out how are we going to arrange childcare. We can just show up at each other's houses. And so I do think proximity matters. If you are someone who lives out in the middle of nowhere, you're just going to have to work harder. It's not that you can't have this, but you're going to have to work harder.
Yeah.
And so I just think this has got to become a big priority for
Yeah.
us.
Well, you said a couple of things. So we have to be able to ask for help and get over it. We're not putting
Yeah.
somebody out. That's part of the interdependency. And we have to expect to be hurt. So let's talk
Yeah.
about the different types of friendships. So Professor Arthur Brooks, who I love, he's a Harvard professor, he says there's 3 types of friendships. There's a transactional friendship, which might be somebody at work. There's an admiration friendship. I believe that's what he said, which is just somebody you admire, maybe at the gym, but like you don't really do life together. And then there's a friendship of virtue, which is the deep seated connection that we all crave and need. According to your research, what do you think are the different types of friendships out there?
Well, so I'm going to go about this 2 ways. One is really fun, one is really scientific. So back to the village mentality. What people learned in the research was you could have acquaintances. You could have about 50 to 150 acquaintances, meaning you know them. If somebody has cancer, you might take them a meal. It's a large, large circle. You got to realize you got to put a name on that. That's an acquaintance. You might talk to them once a month, once every 6 weeks. And then you have an inner circle, more of someone who is, let's just go to the real quick research of 3 to 5 is kind of the number of people you could keep up with on a daily, weekly basis, where
Right.
you do a phone call, you know really what's going on in their life, you know their kids got anxiety and you're praying for that. Like that kind of friendship, you really don't have capacity for more than 5. That was super freeing for me
Sure.
because I thought, okay, and really 3's okay. Like you're going to, when that person hurts you, you're going to feel like you've lost everything. But 3 is a good number. I would say 5 is probably ideal just because people are going to move, people are going to change. You're going to feel like you lose people in that group. But what you've got, if you've got a village, so if we think more in the village mentality, then you are not looking for 2, 3 people to meet all your needs. And you can pull and reservoir from that village. So when a friend moves, you can go, you know what? I really like this person, Sally, who I haven't really spent a lot of time with, but I think I'm going to go to coffee with her. I think I would really enjoy her more.
Yes.
Now, almost like space has opened up at that inner circle. So it's not that that circle never changes. What the village does is it allows people to move in and out of that inner circle, but you never treat the village and the outer circle like your inner circle. The inner
Okay.
circle is the
Your
place.
core.
Yeah.
Okay.
So to what your professor said, it was a scientist professor. I would just say yes. Like there are those people that
Mhm.
that fall in different categories. That's
Right.
how I categorize them. And then this is fun. So I thought about the roles we play in friendship because what we can tend to do is try to look for 2 people, one person that meets all our needs.
Mm.
Never going to happen. So what I did was I built in the book different ways we all interact and different things we bring to friendship.
Right.
So these are 5 different things we each, I would say each of us lean towards one of these more. And it's so funny because I actually today, I didn't when I wrote the book, but I actually have a small group that is 5 people. And I would say we have all 5 of these people in our small group, which is so, so fun.
That's so
So, the first one is the planner.
fun.
The second one is the fun one. The next one is the foxhole friend, the challenger, and the encourager. So when you think of the planner, I mean, we never get together until Jennie E sends the text that says, okay, we're meeting on this day and this is
Right.
going to happen.
Uh-huh.
And she remembers everybody's birthday and she plans so thoughtfully and well for that. And then you've got the fun one. You've got the person that doesn't plan, but man, they take initiative and they are like, let's do this and let's, and I think everybody loves having one of those in their life. And then the foxhole friend, they will just walk with you through, like you just walked through a difficult season in your life, friend. Like hopefully there was a foxhole friend with you. They're going to stick. They're not going to run when things get hard. They're going to be there with you. They're going to be present. And then the challenger is probably the person that you get in the most fights with, but they make you better and they make you think and they keep you from getting lazy and boring and maybe even going in a wrong direction with your life. They aren't afraid to say like, hey, that's not working. And then the encourager is just the person that you want to call when good news happens, that you just know they're going to be so happy with you. And
Yes.
I love people like that. So anyway, I just think that's helpful to go, okay, what am I? We actually have a test on my website, jennieallen.com. You
Okay.
can go there
Thank you.
and and link to it. And you can see like, okay, it's so cute. When people were taking that test back when the book came out right away, it was so fun because people were so proud. They were like, I'm the fun one. I'm the challenger. I'm the encourager. They were so proud and all their friends were really affirming of it. So I
Uh-huh.
think it's a good thing to just know, what do you bring to the table? And you don't need to bring all this. You
Oh,
don't need to
yeah,
be a
that's
perfect
good.
friend.
Mhm.
So it frees you from that. And nobody else needs to bring you all of that either. You're
Mhm.
going to, maybe you have right now just a challenger friend and that's who you're with all the time. You really need an encouraging friend too,
Mhm. Yes, yes.
but you're going to get bored and you're not going to get better without the challenger. So it
Mhm.
helps you also appreciate people and the different roles that they play in your life.
I really like that. I can definitely say I'm the challenger friend, but I also feel like I'm an encourager. Like I'm
You are.
I'm aggressively helpful though. So
Yes,
that's where it's like
I love
I
it.
always say I'm not bossy. I'm just aggressively helpful and I
I
will
love
encourage
that.
you and
So
yeah,
good.
to get out of
Yes.
your comfort zone. That's so good. If I were to ask you to define a true friend, the person that's in that inner circle, it's not necessarily one thing because you're not going to look to just one friend to meet all of your needs. And they're all going to bring something different to the table if you have that 3 to 5 person inner circle,
Yeah.
correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I like to say there's a few qualities you look for. You don't look
Okay.
for everything, right?
Right.
But you do look for available. Available
Mhm.
matters. There are people that would make wonderful friends, but they have their 5 and you're going to keep bumping up into their 5 and you're going to feel like I'm on the outside of something and I don't feel like they prioritize me. There are other people that don't. So just remember, like if you feel like, man, that person never, ever, ever responds, doesn't want to pursue me, move on. Like there are other people
Okay.
that need this. And so the next thing is you need humility. You need someone that will work through a conflict with you, that
Mhm.
will not run when things get hard. They aren't prideful. They aren't always right.
Right.
You're also going to need them. There's 3 things I say.
Okay, available matters, so they have to be available, they have to be humble, or the humility aspect matters.
Vulnerable.
Vulnerable. Okay, got it.
And that starts with us, right? Like we can't go into a coffee date with someone or on a walk with someone and expect them to show up vulnerable. You have to go first.
Mm,
And as you do that, if it's received well in sharing things with them, they begin to open up with you. That's a great sign.
yeah.
It is just like dating. I mean, guys, this is a sad thing. I mean, you kind of just have to hang out with somebody and figure out like, are they available? Are they humble? Are they vulnerable? Are they going to share with me as I share with them what's
Yep,
really going on? Because you don't need more shallow. The village can stay shallow, right? The village can stay just high level news and information about you. But
right,
that 3 to 5, you're really looking for someone that's going to know that you and your husband got in a fight last night.
right,
And you're going to be able to share that with them.
and they have to be available, they have to be humble, so that level of humility, and they have to be vulnerable. Now, I do hear from a lot of people, and like you do, I don't how do I find and foster them? And you say you have to put yourself out there. You have to be the type of friend to other people. You often have to take the initiative, right? And
Mhm.
we've kind of
Yeah.
lost that art of taking the initiative. So to somebody out there is like, I don't know where to start. Nobody has asked me to do anything.
Yeah.
What would you tell them? Would you just say, hey, you've got to put yourself out there. You've got to initiate. You
Yeah.
got to be the type of friend that you want somebody to be in return. What advice would you give them?
The only people in this day and age with everything stacked against us when it comes to relationships that are going to have friends are people who initiate. And I hear all the time when I say that, yeah, I'm like, you can be lonely or you can initiate. Those are your two options.
Mm.
If you're waiting for someone to initiate
Oh.
with you, it's not going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And when I post something like that on Instagram, immediately the comments are full of, I initiate all the time. Nobody initiates with me back. Yep.
That's called
Yep.
putting yourself out there, and people are going to
And
hurt you.
you might have to do it all your life. And so what? So I know it feels hurtful, but you have to remember that it is a muscle, it is a tool. And so when you've initiated with someone for 6 months and they are now your good friend, and this happened to me on the reverse side, I wasn't great at initiating. And I had a friend that initiated toward me. Praise God, it was a miracle. And she did it. And 6 months in, she looked at me and she said, if you don't start initiating with me, we're out. Like, I'm done. And so at some point in the friendship, after you've initiated for a long time and you've really built a friendship, you can say, listen, I need you to initiate back. And I still don't do it enough. I mean, just super candidly, I'm really busy. And so I don't do it enough. Thankfully, she hasn't quit me yet. But
Yeah,
I do
Jennie,
think
you have to
it
be
should be.
available. You got to be
Yes, but
available.
it should be in an ideal world. It is this and that. It is back and forth. It is, but just people have lost this muscle. And not only that, this is what's so sad. We're so addicted to technology.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, from Netflix to social media, we are just addicted. And so people would rather be in their pajamas at home on their technology than with people. We would rather be watching shows about friendship and people doing life together than we would out making our own life and having our own friends.
Mm-hmm.
That is a sad, terrible thing. And we need to fight against
Right.
it every chance we can. And you need to name it as addiction
Yes. Well, you
because
look at
that's what it is.
families, you look at friends, they're out to eat,
Yeah.
partners, kids, everybody's on
And
their
they're on their
phone.
phones. I
I'm
know.
like, all that says is you'd rather be anywhere but with the people, or you don't know how to actually initiate conversation anymore. It's really, yeah, it's sad. And it's kind of gross to me. I do feel convicted because I feel like my husband's always like, if we go out to eat, he takes my phone away from me so that we can't be on our
Absolutely.
phone.
Yeah,
I
we do
feel bad.
the put it on your f y w actually, we changed it. We used to flip it over and have it on the table,
But
like
that's a
phone stack it,
distraction still.
but that's a distraction still, so now we just keep them off the table in our
Mm-hmm.
you know
Yep.
yeah, it's so real.
My daughter and I, so
Sure.
she plays travel volleyball, and so my son plays travel basket. Like everybody's going in 7 different directions. You know the feeling. But we were on our way back from a tournament, and we stopped at Chipotle, and neither of us brought our phones in. We didn't even realize it. And then after lunch, we got back in the car. She's like, Mom, weren't you proud of me? I left my phone in the car. And I was like, I did too.
Oh,
We had great conversation because if the
oh,
phone's there, it's a crutch.
that's right.
And we're going to reach for it when
Yeah,
things get a little uncomfortable or
yeah,
there's dead space. So I was really proud of her for doing that. But I
that's
think it's
precious.
just being
Yes.
intentional, understanding that we all are addicted to it. And so understanding the addiction first and foremost is really important.
Yeah.
Okay. So you don't have to be friends with everybody. Talked about the difference between being friendly and being friends with someone. So that was a really good differentiator. You've said that conflict is not only normal in relationships, but it can strengthen relationships. Maybe that's why my husband and I are such good friends because there's so much
Yes.
conflict.
Right? I mean, that is so hard to receive.
Mhm.
We run quickly, we are
Yes.
the boundary
Uh-huh.
generation. We learn boundaries, and
Mm.
when something gets toxic, we run, but we
Yep.
call things toxic way too soon, team. We've got to be
I
careful because
agree.
you actually quit, good friendships.
Mhm.
It's funny, 2 of my friends got in a pretty big disagreement a few years ago, right after the book came out, and they're both in the book. And it just devastated me because we do so much life together, and I thought, "Are we gonna be okay? Are we gonna make it through this?" And both of them said no. They both said, "Nope, like, we're done." And I was like, "Oh my gosh." I put them together. I invited them over. We have a pool in our backyard. I put them in the pool. I gave them Mexican food. I laid it out on the side of the pool.
And
And I
margaritas.
said, "You're not."
I would have
Oh,
had to
yeah.
give them margaritas too,
Oh,
just.
oh, I did. I bought it all, y'all. I was like, I dropped some change. I, like, dropped $200 on this meal. I put it all on the side of the pool, and I was like, "We're not getting out until y'all work this out." And it was amazing. It took hours and they worked it out. And we all three are just still the best of friends.
Uh,
And it's so cool because since then, they had not fought. That was their first big fight. And we've been friends for years. But since then, there have been other disagreements. And I've had them too. I'm more like a fighter. I'm like you. I've got a lot more challenger in me. And so
oh, yeah.
I'll just sit there
Conflict feels like
and
intimacy to me.
me
Like,
too. I'm like, what are we even doing if we don't have a fight, right?
I know.
We should have a fight, Paula, right now on air. um, but all that to say, I feel like they now deal with conflict so much better. So
Right.
what happens when you have a conflict is you build and it repairs. It's a rupture repair. When that happens, then you actually know in your brain next time we can repair. So you aren't afraid of the conflict. So when it happens again, or you get close or tense or whatever, the second time, third time, you might still be scared. You might still feel like, oh, that didn't feel good last time. I don't want that to happen. But the magic of it happening a few times is then you begin to know we can get over this. We can
Mhm.
work through this.
Mhm.
And now, I mean, now they'll fight and they're fine the next day,
Mhm.
So I think that's the goal. But we walk away the second it gets hard. So I would just say there are relationships where that person will not repair, where you've gone to them 10 times and they will not repair. And it reminds me of a verse in the Bible that says, as much as it concerns you, live at peace with all men. So there are sometimes it's just as much as it concerns me, I can't fix this. Like
Yeah.
I've done everything I can, but I can't fix it. And so that's okay. It's like this is a two-way thing. You both have to be willing to fight and repair. It is a lost art, the art of conflict and doing that well, and then actually repairing and getting deeper and really being better friends because of it.
How do you have the discernment to know the difference between this is just normal conflict and this is actually toxic and I need to walk away from it?
Yeah, I mean, if you find yourself over and over again noticing bad behavior that is growing in you because of being with these friends, gossip that's growing, you're drinking too much, you're talking about inappropriate things all the time. As someone who might feel conviction about that, you can say like, "Hey, I don't want to gossip anymore. I just don't. Can we work on that?" You can do that so many times. If that's just where they're hell bent to go, like you're probably not going to shift the culture. And you just need to, it's not that you can't be friends with them. It's just you've got to look for other people to do life with that are going to help you grow, that are going to help you be someone that you want to be.
Mhm.
And because honestly, it's funny. Somebody, I know this is a famous old quote. I have no idea where it came from, but basically somebody said, like, you will be 5 years from now, you will be a product of the books you read and
And
the people
yes,
you
you'll be your friend.
you know. Do you
Mhm.
know who said that?
No, but
I
I
love
see it all the time. Harvard has cited it, but I tell my kids that all the
yeah,
time. I'm like, your 5
yes,
closest people, that's who you're gonna become. Do you wanna become that? If
right.
not, you need to
Be
find
sure.
better friends.
Yeah. So it's not that again, there have been people in my life that I've just pulled back from over time, but I still love them and I
Mhm.
celebrate their birthday and I reach out to them. But as far as them being my input every day, that wasn't the best for me. I wasn't growing. I wasn't loving God more. I wasn't getting better. And then the other thing is you've just got to find somebody to be real with. And it can't be somebody that when you're real with them, they say, "Oh, I hate that person. Like, get away from it. Like, don't leave your husband, whatever." It's like, no, you've got to have friends that actually help you grow and be better
Mhm.
because all of us are going to be furious at people at a certain time. We
Yep.
don't just walk away from all the people because they hurt us. We have to still work at it. We have to still try. But if you feel like I have asked for forgiveness, I have tried to make this right, and they're
Yeah.
holding a grudge,
Yep.
you know what? Walk away and find somebody else
Mhm.
because at least 4 in 5 people are lonely. So you will find somebody else if you
Yes.
keep initiating.
And you did mention we are the boundary culture, boundaries, and boundaries
They're a
are
gift.
they're gates, but they're not walls.
Right.
However, just because and I think the faith culture that gets thrown at our face, we
Yeah.
have to not only forgive, we have to reconcile. We don't have to
Yeah.
reconcile. We can forgive the person. We don't
Yeah.
have that does not mean that we have to do life with them, which leads me to my next question. Do you have to be friends with your family?
Oh, I think that's impossible.
Okay.
I think you have to love your family. It's not impossible for me. I have really great family,
Yeah.
but I just know too many stories. Like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, family relationships are some of the hardest we have. I do think we are to love our families, and what that looks like for each of us can be on a spectrum and be different. I do think, our families are the only relationships that are sealed by either blood or adoption or
Mhm.
marriage, so
Mhm.
these are pretty intense connections that
Yes.
that I would just challenge I think I've talked to so many people that have had to draw such boundaries with their family that they're basically estranged, and in some cases, I'm like, "That is your only option." Like,
Mhm.
you have someone who can't your kids cannot see, like, there
Mhm.
was massive abuse in their past, like,
Yeah.
and they won't face it, they won't deal with it. That is certainly called for at times. But then I know other people that have basically drawn boundaries because their parents are too needy. And I'm like, you know, be careful because that's setting a culture for your kids that when you are older and
Yep.
you are needy, that they will not be there for you and they don't have to be. So just
Mhm.
be careful. Like you're actually setting a precedent and you're saying need is bad, run from it.
Right.
And so I
Which
would
is
just
why we're
say,
kind of in this position to begin with, loneliness, because we don't ask for help and we don't rely on one another.
yeah, we're gonna be dealing with broken family. We're gonna be dealing with broken people.
Yeah.
The greatest thing we can do is get as healthy as we can in ourselves.
Yeah.
So what I've seen work best with families is, for instance, I have a friend that has done years of counseling and kind of pulled back from her family because she was so affected by them, and now is reengaging and in a healthier place, can handle it, can blow things off, laugh about him. Like she's in a better place. So that's great. Like that's a great picture of what we can do. We can't control them. We can control us. And we can get healthier to where we can be more resilient and we can be in the midst of their dysfunction and laugh and be like, yeah, that's my dad. That's my mom. Like, that's how it goes. But when you're so wounded, I want to give so much grace that there might need to be a window where you really do pull back and heal.
There's nothing like quite like family hurt. My sister and I were essentially,
Yeah.
I don't wanna say we were estranged, but we took some time away. We both went to therapy. It was probably one of the hardest times in my life because I felt like a piece of me was missing, and we have
Mm,
worked through it. We fought really hard. But I also know that, like, just because they're your family does not mean that you need to be in relationship with them. So,
yeah. Yeah.
okay, last question for you. Are you best friends with your spouse? I mean, we're gonna be doing a
I
whole
am.
episode about this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That's going to be interesting. I can't wait to hear that one. I am, but I would say of my good friends that all love God, some are and some aren't. And I had a huge value for that when I married Zach. I mean, somebody had said to me, like, marry your best friend. And I was not gonna marry anybody I didn't feel best friends with. Now, some people start off best friends and then there's so much hurt. We are huge fans of counseling. We have done a lot of it. It saved our marriage early on. So we have fought for that. That has not always come easily, but we are now married almost 27 years. And so
Amazing.
there's a whole new kind of comfort
Mhm.
that comes with that. Also, we don't have toddlers anymore. We don't have kids that need us every minute. Like, everybody can drive, everybody's in a place where they're much more independent, and so we're just enjoying that,
Yep.
and there's a lot less stress. I always feel so sad for couples that divorce, like, in the toddler years or, like, right after, because 'cause I'm like, "Oh, yeah, that was horrible." Like, just FYI, like, those
Yes,
are not the glory years. Like,
yes,
just hang on, fight through, and get a counselor because it does get better and better as you get your marriage back. It's
yeah.
just there's so much demand with raising a family and work and all the things that happen in these years. So, yeah, I think it gets better and better.
And we're often trying to raise our family alone without the help of a village or close friends,
That's
which can
right.
make a huge difference.
It's
So,
true.
well, Jenny, I'm
Love
grateful
catching
to
up,
be on
girl.
your outer circle. That's okay. We can name it. We're
Yes.
we're like we're not within 5 miles of one another, but I do call you friend. And thank
Yes,
you.
me
This has been
too.
really great. Thank you for
I
spending
missed you,
life with
friend. I'm
everything.
glad
I
glad to
miss you
catch up.
too. A big thanks to Jennie Allen for joining me in conversation. That was just such a helpful conversation. It's such an important and timely topic and conversation. Stick around. I'm going to share when it's time to walk away from the friendship, but it is time to dig into my takeaways. And by the way, I have a lot of takeaways, you guys, so just buckle up. Number one, we are built for this. It is something that we need, something that we are. We are built communally, and our entire health ecosystem, mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally, it is centered on friendship and connection. Loneliness is the worst thing that we can do for our health. And she said, we have to intentionally change the way that we approach this. Instead of calling somebody or speaking to them after you've pulled it together, talk to them in the midst of the cry and the conflict. This is something that I did not do a good job of when my mom first passed away. I was letting those phone calls all go to my voicemail. I just didn't feel like I really had it in me. And the vulnerability is hard. So knowing that we intentionally have to make these choices to call somebody or to pick up in the middle of the cry and the conflict, and we are built for this. That's number one. Number two, this is how it is in other countries. Jennie shared that really great story about her neighbor who is from another country, and he's like, this is not good how you guys are living here in the West. She says in other countries, they don't live a minute without one another. They are washing clothes together. They are cooking meals together. They are raising their kids together. 80% of the world does it this way. It's just in the West, and especially here in America, that we're like, nope, I'm going to do it all on my own, thanks. And now we're lonely and in the midst of this loneliness epidemic, and it is just awful for our entire health. Okay, that's number two. My next takeaway are just setting the expectations when it comes to friendship. You have to ask for help. You have to expect to be hurt. You have to initiate and put yourself out there. She said you could be lonely or you can initiate. And the other expectation is that conflict is normal. You begin to know that you can get over this and you can work through this. She said we throw the word toxic around too much and too easily, but you can get deeper into that friendship after repairing. She said maybe they just don't need your input every day, or you don't need their input every day, and they don't bring out a good side in you. It's time to walk away and just set realistic expectations, right? Don't put unrealistic expectations on that relationship anymore. But you don't have to be friends with your family. You don't have to stay in community with people where you've tried and tried and tried and things just aren't going to change and it's just not a healthy dynamic. That's when it's time to walk away. And we will get deeper into this later in the series, specifically about friendship and family, which can be really complicated. My other takeaways, you have 50 to 150 acquaintances. That's the large circle. She says that's an acquaintance. That's somebody that maybe you talk to every 6 weeks. That is not a deep, true friend. The deep, true friend, the inner circle, right? So we have the acquaintances, 50 to 150 people, the outer circle, and then you have the inner circle. The inner circle should consist of 3 to 5 friends. We don't have capacity for more than 5. And she said it's that village mentality. And you don't want just 2 people or 3 people to meet all your needs. She said people will move in and out of that inner circle, but the inner circle is the core. So what do you look for out of your inner circle? She said it's kind of like dating, but they need to be available, humble, and they need to be vulnerable. By available, she said, availability matters. Move on if they don't respond. If they don't respond, that means they're not available. They're not in your inner circle. So the first key to finding an inner circle friend is they need to be available. Number 2, humility. She said you need someone who's going to work through a conflict, won't run, and doesn't always have to be right. That's humility. And then number 3, if you're looking for a friend in that inner circle, the third thing you need to look for is vulnerability. And again, that starts with us. And no one friend is going to fulfill all of your needs and bring everything to the table. I'm going to put a link to the show notes to her website if you want to take that personality test to find out what kind of friend you are. I know I'm the encourager and the challenger. I'm the one that's aggressively helpful, but that's just who I am. And I embrace it in all of my friendships. And one other thing, we have to actively fight against the addiction because whether it's social media or a streamer, we're addicted and we would rather watch a series or a show about friendship than actually put the work in. We're all guilty of that. So we have to fight it every chance that we can. And we also have to name it. It is addiction. So as we continue this series on friendship, I told you guys I'm going to look at it from a lot of different angles. And next week's guest is none other than my former co-host from Good Morning America, Dan Harris. Now, Dan and I worked together for a very long time. We could not be any more different, but we just adore one another and respect one another despite our differences. So the topic is the importance of having friends who see the world differently than you. It is important, and I'm going to tell you why next week as we continue to talk about it. See you then. I know, you guys thought you were done with me, but not quite yet. I have one more thing to tell you about. If you're watching on YouTube or you're listening on your favorite podcast platform, don't forget to subscribe to the show. I don't want you to miss a single beat or a single conversation. And remember, my DMs are always open. Tell me what you want to talk about.